At the end of the dynasty, there was a chaotic world of low martial arts. The collapse of the central imperial dynasty, the fragmentation of various regions, and the rise of sections. The demonic sects are causing chaos in the dark, and the people in the world are struggling to make ends meet. Xiang traveled through such a post-apocalyptic dynasty and discovered that he had a very special ability: his body size can grow infinitely. As Xiang's body size grew, his intelligence, foundation, physique, and even lifespan could all be improved without limits. You can also acquire various powerful talents in this process. When his height exceeded 2 meters, Xiang awakened his double pupils and was able to anticipate the enemy's opportunities. When his height broke through 3 meters, Xiang awakened to the King Kong, capable of carrying a tripod and impervious to knives and guns. When his height exceeded 1.6 Xiang, Xiang transformed into a Shura, with 3 heads and 6 arms, a blue face and fangs. Many years later, when the supernatural powers revive and the mysterious immortal Buddha, who disappeared from ancient times, reappears in the human world, wanting to cause trouble on one side. Xiang is 10,000 zhang tall, with 100 arms and 1,000 heads. With one punch, he falls like a meteorite. Giant cracks twisted and spread in all directions, sweeping away forests, rivers, and restricted areas. The vast land sank and ruptured, and the sun, moon, and stars fell together. He roared angrily, "True immortals are people as big as mountains. You immortals and Buddhas have all taken the wrong path." The trembling immortals and Buddhas said, "How dare you call yourself a person?" Keywords of the novel. I achieved enlightenment and became an immortal in the low martial world without a pop-up window. I downloaded the complete set of enlightenment and became an immortal in the low martial world. I also read the latest chapter on enlightenment and became an immortal in the low martial world. Chapter 1. Medicinal Collector. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Medicinal Collector. In the 13th year of the Xiang reign, the Yellow River broke its embankment. Drought, locust plague, and plague followed one after another. The deceased rested on the Tao, and the people were struggling to make a living. Ningzhou, Dalian County. Wukui Mountain. Wow! A series of small stones rolled down from the cliff and hit Xiang's face. Xiang's eyebrows furrowed slightly before slowly waking up, panting heavily. He fell under a steep cliff. If it weren't for encountering a crooked neck pine growing on a large stone in the middle, which alleviated the impact, it would probably have been fatal. But even so, Xiang's current situation is also not optimistic. His entire left arm has lost consciousness, it's unclear whether it's broken or dislocated. Fortunately, the rest of the limbs can still feel waves of dull pain, indicating that there is no problem with the spine, but the muscles were injured during the fall from the cliff. The back of the head is also a bit hazy, with waves of coolness coming from it. It should be bleeding. Xiang, however, ignored the injuries on his body and struggled to turn his head to look towards his left hand. Even though the left hand had lost consciousness at this point, the pale fingers still tightly grasped a earthy yellow herb that looked like a bamboo joint and was the size of an arm. This medicinal herb is called Zhujiashen. Each additional bamboo node above means a 10-year vintage. And the bamboo ginseng in Xiang's hand, with 10 bamboo nodes arranged together, is truly an excellent century-old ginseng. This is a century-old ginseng plant. If it can be sold in the market. Even during the soaring prices of the Ziyuan era, it is possible to exchange food for a family of 5 to live for 3 years. Seeing the century-old ginseng in hand safe and sound, Xiang finally breathed a long sigh of relief. He lay on the soft sand and looked up at the pale blue sky. Not far away, a stream babbled by, and the sound of tinkling spring water could be heard. Unconsciously, it has been almost half a year since I traveled to this world. As a traveler, Xiang naturally has his own golden finger. His golden finger is named Food Immortal, which can draw more nutrients from food. And these nutrients, after being absorbed by the body, can infinitely strengthen Su Heng's body shape, bones, intelligence, and even lifespan. It can be said. As long as there is enough food and time, Su Heng can grow to a terrifying extent in this world. Cheng Xian's was no longer speaks, Chongsheng Jiushi is easily captured. However, ideals are full, reality is bony. In this feudal dynasty called Diyu, the people were divided into 4 groups. Yu people, Nan Man people, Han people, and Bei people. Among them, the Moon people have the highest status, while the North people have the lowest status. Similarly, the rulers of the Dayue dynasty also divided the people into 79 different registered residents according to different industries. Su Heng is the northerner with the lowest status, and his registered residence is the drug registration. This also means that he will only be able to be a seasoned and restless herb picker for the rest of his life. Just be the herb picker. Even worse, with severe drought, the vegetation in Wukue Mountain has become much more desolate. However, the taxation of the imperial court is becoming increasingly strict day by day, and coupled with the rampant local gangs, it has become even more rampant. Not to mention becoming an immortal ancestor, even having enough food every day has become a luxury. Su Heng also thought about hiding in the deep mountains and leaving. Unfortunately, Su Heng's father is very kind to him, and his 2 sisters are also very kind to him. But now that my family has encountered some unexpected changes, I have become the only pillar of support. If I just leave, wow. The sound of gravel coming from the distant path interrupted Su Heng's thinking. Someone is here. After realizing this, Su Heng not only did not feel surprised, but his expression became more fierce. He groped on the ground with his right hand for a while, and a hemp rope appeared in Su Heng's hand. This type of hemp rope is usually tied around the waist and is a safety rope used by miners to protect themselves when climbing steep cliffs. It needs to be soaked in tung oil for several days to be completed, and it is incredibly tough. But at this point, the end of the hemp rope has already broken and the cut is neat. It is obvious that someone used a sharp tool to cut it, and its purpose is self-evident. You want to kill and steal treasures. You have a beautiful idea. The crisis is gradually approaching. Su Heng's mood became incredibly calm. Without any hesitation, Su Heng struggled to break open the century-old ginseng held in his left hand, stuffed it into his mouth one by one, chewed it hard, and swallowed it. Centennial ginseng is a precious medicinal herb, but its taste is not good, bitter with a hint of astringency. At this moment, mixed with blood and water, Su Heng swallowed it into his abdomen. The taste became even more peculiar. Soon, a 100-year-old ginseng plant was completely swallowed by Su Heng. Under the influence of the immortal eating talent, the medicinal power of centennial ginseng was quickly digested and absorbed by Su Heng. Su Heng only felt a stream of heat spreading from his abdomen, flowing through blood vessels and tendons into his limbs and bones. His forehead turned slightly red, his body was burning, and his chest was panting violently. A tingling sensation came from the wound. The broken left hand regained consciousness. There was a crisp sound coming from the bones, and his body seemed to have grown taller. Although the injury has not fully recovered, basic movements are now unobstructed. The sound of footsteps is getting closer and closer. Su Heng lay on the ground, squinting his eyes to see the appearance of the newcomer clearly. The newcomer has a lean figure, a withered and yellow face, wearing a tattered linen shirt, and holding a simple knife for chopping firewood in his hand. It's yellow sesame. Su Heng had an impression in his heart. Huan Matzi, like Su Heng, are both medicinal gatherers. In the past, I had received the favor of Su Heng's father, but now I want to take action against him. It is indeed wealth that moves people's hearts. He has a weapon in his hand, and my injury has not yet healed. If we fight head-on, the chances of winning are unlikely. After a brief analysis of the situation, Su Heng immediately had a decision in his heart. He tilted his head, squinted his eyes, and continued to lie on the ground pretending to be dead, but his heart was filled with nervousness. Sha sha. The sound of feet stepping on gravel. Ah hung. Huang Matzi stood not far away, shouting loudly. A pair of turbid eyes were now shining with a thief's light, and he looked around dribbling. He even picked up a stone from the ground and threw it towards Su Heng's head. There is still no movement. Have you completely passed out? Huang Matzi breathed a sigh of relief and then strode towards Su Heng. He squatted on the ground, rummaging through the medicine basket next to Su Heng. However, after searching for a long time, the 100-year-old ginseng plant never found its whereabouts. What's going on? Huang Matzi saw sweat on his forehead and felt a hint of unease in his heart. He wiped his sweat, but the remaining light in his eyes noticed that Su Heng, who had just been lying on the ground, had disappeared at some point. Not good. Huang Matzi's heart skipped a beat and turned to look behind her. But at this moment, Su Heng was facing away from the sun, his thin figure shrouded in shadows, and his slightly immature face was full of ferocity. A pebble the size of a head is being lifted high by Su Heng, use force to smash it down. Puzzy. A string of crimson blood splashed high. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Crisis. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The source has no content or has errors. Chapter 3. Family, for collection. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The source has no content or has errors. Chapter 4. Gentlemen, seeking collection. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The source has no content or has errors. Chapter 5. Talent, for collection. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The source has no content or has errors. Chapter 6. Killing, for collection. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The source has no content or has errors. Chapter 7. Temples, for collection. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The source has no content or has errors. Chapter 8. Tearing surface, for collection. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The source has no content or has errors. Chapter 9. Hong Xiang, seeking collection. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The source has no content or has errors. Chapter 10. Refining blood, for collection. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The source has no content or has errors.